Chandler has reclaimed the top spot, #1 for the most competitive market in the Phoenix metro area. Fountain Hills took over #1 for a little bit, and then Chandler came back in January 2025 as #1. So what does most competitive mean? So competitive, or a seller's market, means that there are more people shopping for a home in a certain area than there are homes available for sale. Now, does this mean that if you list your property today, your home today, that you're going to get multiple offers? Or if you're buying a home, that you have to sacrifice your firstborn child in order to get a home? Not necessarily, because real estate is really never that black and white. There are some nuances that come with real estate and how competitive it is going to be for you. And a lot of it depends on what area of Chandler you're in, what price point, what type of home you're looking for. So let's talk about it. I'm Courtney Strelzik. I'm a local real estate agent in the East Valley. And if you do find any of this helpful, please subscribe. It does actually help my channel out a lot. So how do we know that Chandler is in fact the most competitive market? Well, it really comes down to supply and demand, like I mentioned a moment ago. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to bore you with a whole bunch of numbers and charts, but I am going to show you what we call the Cromford Market Index that is developed by our local housing analyst. And this looks at the balance of supply and demand. So when we look over here at Phoenix Metro, this is for the entire city, we can see the supply over here compared to the demand. They're pretty close together, which just puts us as a metro area as a whole, we're a neutral market. But if we start to get more demand, more buyers and less houses, we typically come into the seller's market, which is this green or anything above 110. And then when we look at the city of Chandler, we can see that we're at 160.8. So this is definitely a fair amount above 110. So if you're planning on selling your home in Chandler, you can look at this and say like, hey, this is actually pretty good news. And it is. Technically, you do have the upper hand. But one thing to consider is, it's not like it was in prior years, like the craziness of 2020 or 21, where houses were listing and over a weekend they were getting multiple offers. So think about this. We're at 160.8. In 21, that index was 700. There were just so many people out buying homes because interest rates were so low at that time. But this is something really important to note if you are planning on selling your home and you live in Chandler. This is for Chandler as a whole when we look at this number. So not every home in Chandler that hits the market is going to have the upper hand in negotiating. And there are some homes that are less competitive. There's some areas that are less competitive as well. It really comes down to location, price point, and type of home. So as far as location, the most competitive zip code right now is over by the Chandler Mall, that south part just north of the 202, the 85226 area. The areas around like North Chandler by downtown is also pretty competitive, the 85224, 85225. Now the south part of Chandler typically is the least competitive part of Chandler, and that is what we are currently seeing. Currently, single family homes tend to be the most competitive type of home. You just have more people looking for a single family home versus a condo or a mobile home. As far as the most competitive price point, it's actually homes listed or sold between $350,000 and $500,000. And of course, the reason for this is affordability. Interest rates are really high, and this is definitely below the median sales price of Chandler. So these are the more affordable homes. And the second part is we do have a lot of people that are looking for more of a starter home. Millennials, Gen Z, all these first-time home buyers that are coming out here are looking for, a lot of them are looking for under that $500,000 price point. Now, keep in mind, just because you have a single family home, maybe in the north part of Chandler, and it's worth $450,000, it's still really important in this market today that you're marketing appropriately and you're strategically pricing. That's a huge thing. We still do see some homes that are in that price range that are sitting on the market for a really, really long time. And it's really more often than not that they overpriced when they first listed the home. But if you were buying a home in Chandler this upcoming year, I wouldn't be too stressed. We're somewhat of a seller's market for sure, but it's kind of a baby seller's market. It's not anywhere near that 700 that we saw a few years ago. So if you are buying a home, you want to hear this. So this is the good news. 50% of home sales last month actually received a seller concession of $10,000. And if you aren't familiar with what a seller concession is, this is when the seller gives you, the buyer, $10,000. Now, it's not like a check that you can just take home, but you can use that money at the closing table to either cover your closing costs, so that way you don't have to bring as much cash to the closing table, or the other thing, which a lot of people are doing right now because interest rates are high, they're actually giving that money to a lender and they're buying down the rate, meaning their monthly payment is going to be considerably lower, making it much more affordable for them to move into that home. Right now, we aren't really seeing a lot of multiple offer scenarios. They're still out there if a home is priced strategically under market value. Sometimes agents will do that, particularly if it's a move-in ready home in a desirable neighborhood or location. That way, a lot of people, they get a lot of traffic that first weekend and hopefully get multiple offers and potentially have people bid against one another. Now, we don't see that a lot right now, as I said. However, as the spring months come along, we typically see the market get a little bit more competitive. We'll have to see. Things have been kind of weak. We haven't seen a lot of an increase of activity of buyers, but I will keep you posted on how that looks over the next coming months. And if you want to know about a specific location, please comment and I'll try to give you as much information as possible. Thank you so much for your time and have a fantastic day.